There we go. We're live. Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Peverelli, and I'm excited to be here. I'm the founder and CEO of We Are No Code, and I have with me Andrew Jernigan, who is the founder and CEO of Insured Nomads. He's also probably one of the first no-coders back in the WordPress days, and he's going to be able to share a lot of his own experience. I'm putting you under the gun here. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing well. Coming in from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and you can probably tell from my southern accent, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. So I split my time between the two.
Very cool. No, that's amazing. So why don't you give us a little sort of a one-liner about like what you do at Insured Nomads, and then we'll jump into some other questions.
Well, thanks. We are an international specialized insurance company. So those that are going off on their summer semester abroad, gap year to their vacation across Europe, or digital nomads, remote workers, expats, or those who are, have a team of workers around the world for group plans. So from travel to expat coverage, that's what we do. And at a fraction of the price of most of our competitors, with outstanding service and a culture of generosity. I'll touch on that in a little bit.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, like it's so awesome. I mean, I heard your story a little bit behind the scenes, and it sounds like this all started because you yourself sort of went on this journey of being like, I want to be a digital nomad. I want to go and work from anywhere in the world. I think that's something that a lot of people are craving. So, and I know that you kind of were able to use your no-code skills to be able to do that. So why don't you bring us through that story a little bit and explain to people how you were able to do that?
Yeah, that's kind of wild because this July makes 20 years ago that I took off and said, I want to travel. I went to Europe, spent some time, about 6 months there, and then landed in Brazil and started a web design hosting company. That was when shared hosting and designing sites with basic no-code tools, outsourcing some coding to India and other places, but really low-code, no-code sites. Back then, funded my work and livelihood of traveling, and at that time I was living in Brazil, different city than now, but yeah.
Nice. And you also went through like Africa and like, I mean, you did more than just one city here.
Yeah, I've worked across 5 continents now and lived long-term in 4 of those. And it's raising 3 kids. My wife's a global health doc, travel medicine specialist, and one of the partners here. We're a team of a group that started Insured Nomads, and so, yeah, we've been a nomad expat family. And my oldest just submitted his college essay for university admission. Got a chance to look at that, and he wrote in it that he's a global nomad.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, honestly, I also grew up in a similar circumstance, very globally. And I think that it had such a great impact on just like seeing things in a more open perspective. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think that it's valuable to travel for anyone, really, at whatever age.
You speak Portuguese, right? So we'll just do the rest of the interview in Portuguese.
Tá bom para mim, quando você quiser.
Vamos continuar.
Excellent. So yeah, I mean, you were also, bring us through this, because WordPress was an incredibly powerful sort of website builder, and we've now transitioned into a whole new sort of tool set that allows people to do way beyond sort of websites with basic plugins. I know that you're a big fan of Webflow. Like, tell me about the evolution that you've seen in this space in terms of like the capabilities of what you're building, and also just the how much easier or harder, or like what was your experience going through it?
Wow, being introduced to Webflow, and I must say I was introduced by a master. Saku is one of the masters. He's leading the No Code Rumble, and he's Really, he introduced it to me, and then I've taken it on to our team. Webflow really revolutionized the space for agencies, for founders who are saying, no, we're going to bootstrap, or those who are saying, let's do something radically different. It's really shifted the atmosphere. I look at things like WordPress, and now Wix is trying to copy Webflow, and with a premium service that's not worth considering even. But it really has shifted things. I do hope they keep up with the times, because the demand is going to be intense for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Webflow is extraordinarily different.
Yeah. And so tell us some of the things that you've built with Webflow, because I know you've built around like every part of your business with Webflow.
Yes, pretty much our site is the Webflow aspect.
Yeah.
When we go into other no-code elements of it, we shift to Suite Dash, which is a no-code full suite that is remarkable, and no-code or very low-code.
Yeah.
That gives unlimited cloud storage, project management. So in our case, group policy design management, where we work with intermediaries and brokers around the world to create group policies for companies.
That's amazing.
And with that, they can upload their documents. Comes with unlimited cloud storage, instant messaging inside, CRM, client portal, broker portal.
You've built all those things.
What's that?
You've built all those things with no code.
Yes.
That's incredible. That's like one of the biggest things. It's like people don't believe, like when you tell them that you can build an incredibly powerful CRM without writing a line of code, they're like mind blown, And so I think that's a bit of the war that's happening with this whole no code movement, is to be able to really convince people that it's too good to be true, but it's true.
Right. In many industries, fintech, insurtech, and others, you say insurance company, and folks are going to give you a $900,000 price tag to design something. And it's going to be legacy before we know it. It's going to be something where we're chained to them as the service provider. Can you do anything different? Nope, sorry, and we already paid the $900,000 to them.
Yeah.
And that's, sadly, in some industries, the mindset is find someone that has developed a solution and go with it. Versus, let's look outside the box. Let's see if we can build it. Let's see if there's some suppliers that are trying to build no-code solutions so that you can modify it and create it according to your specs. The same thing has happened with our app. It's got a long way to go, but wow, it's incredible, and it's a Glide app. Glide apps are powerful no-code apps that I highly recommend you check out.
Yeah, we love Glide as well. It's such a great thing. So Glide, for those of you who don't know, you can basically you can create an app very quickly with an Excel sheet. So anything that you can kind of input in an Excel, you can build into a full-on app, and you can do that within a couple of days. So it's pretty mind-blowing. Wow. So yeah, you've really been through several different suites of tools. You kind of got, I guess you were at the forefront of it. Do you remember what your life was before any of this? Before you realized that you could do some of the stuff yourself? Were you sort of coding? Were you hiring coders? Were you in a different industry?
Well, with different times, I value my wife equally. So she's a professional, MD, MBA, MPH, etc. Many other things behind her name. So that's luckily she's got Jernigan, my last name, behind her name too. So that helps. But yeah, so I've chased her around the world for different assignments, and at different times, coding projects, etc., have taken a backseat because living the international lifestyle and married to someone that is also highly esteemed professional, it means you rotate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Career is at first priority. So that also brings in the thing of, okay, where are we this year? Where are we this season? Where I can be remotely working and still create.
Yeah.
So, from, working in banking for a season to where at the corporate office, and that was all just legacy systems that were pathetic. And then working with travel assistance and the crisis response sector, where that was fully remote. And all through these different things, I'm a maker, a creator. And if we can have a culture of innovation within our company, which we do, to where we can find things, improve them when they don't work, trash them, and start over, that's one of the key things I believe to success, is being able to receive feedback and say, look, what you just rolled out needs to be trashed, or needs to be tweaked right here.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So tell us a bit, you also have sort of like a, I don't want to say charity, but you basically are doing a lot of good. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, there's that thing of corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
I think that comes across as rather token a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
We've got our social responsibility. We were birthed as a company before incorporation, before anything, in talks with our partner, our primary partner in giving. And that is that, and their advisors, board members with us, some of their key staff are, to say, look, insurance is $1 billion business, and we want to fund your work. The orphanages, the legal fees to get kids out of working in quarries, to pay to get a mom out of a commercial human trafficking endeavor so she can be with her kids, to pay for the orphanage where they're keeping the kids and the mom who just got out of that factory work that was not of her choosing. So yes, culture of generosity to where we can give like crazy. So when we talk to founders that are joining our team and other key staff saying, look, I know that in the industry you're used to annual bonuses that are absurd every year. That's going into our charitable work. That's not going to be part of the system here. Is that something you're joining with? And that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
To create vocabulary really doesn't get the message across well enough, but kind of an upside down model that is.
No, I love that, because I think that like that's something that a lot of people have realized. It's like we're all in this kind of path that's like, a business path, but also an existential path. And I think that if you're able to kind of like get those two things going at the same time or in parallel, or at least to run your company in a way that's really treating people right and also giving back in a certain way, I think it's super powerful. And I think that's what everyone's kind of craving in the end of the day, right? It's like you see a lot of people who, yes, make a lot of money and then they crave some more meaning maybe. But we are No Code. We're trying to do endeavors in the same direction, which is like, this is empowering a lot of people. And if there are people that don't have the means, then, send us an application, and we've accepted people into the program for free that way. So it's it's so important. I mean, we're trying to do that actively as well as part of our business. So
excellent.
So let's see. Now, you've seen the past 20 years of No Code, right?
Right.
Where do you think this movement is going? What are you excited about in this?
Well, the sad thing is, I believe it plateaued for about 15 of those years. And the trajectory is taking off at such a curve that is exciting, but yet it's not about no code anymore. It's almost, let's stop using the phrase, because it's about creating products, services. It's about the end result that we're actually creating, and not necessarily the tools that are being used. Does anyone talk about, it's the hammer movement, it's the screwdriver movement? No. Everybody uses hammers and screwdrivers, but we don't call it a movement anymore.
Yeah.
So no code is going to shift to where everyone is creating without really thinking that they're no code. Just like everyone was building on another WordPress site, not really realizing they didn't know HTML and they were creating things. Another WordPress site was being generated. So to get away from the the pigeonhole.
Yeah, the stigma.
Yeah, the stigma that is around it to say, no, let's focus on the end result. What is being generated? And for those who are building companies to realize, okay, we don't have to pay a programmer necessarily. And you may have to jump into the no code hashtag to learn about this, because right now it is no hashtag hammer, hashtag screwdriver, because of the climb away from having to pay someone who knows every single aspect.
Yeah, I think that's very correct. And it's interesting what you say. You say it's about the end result. One thing I see it from, like, it's actually about connecting the humans to the technology. So each human has an end result they're trying to do. But basically, I think the reason why it's called no code is because coding scares the hell out of most people. It takes 3 to 6 years to get good at it. And then and the average person doesn't realize that even if he doesn't have coding skills, he can build powerful digital products. And so I think that's why there's like this movement happening under this thing, because it's like, well, that's the easiest way to transmit the message. You don't need to learn how to code to do this.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. We'll move away from that. And of course, visual programming has always been one of the other names that that's used to talk about no code.
Right. But even with our app, which is powered on Glide, you'll be able to upload your receipts and file your claim all through that app. And
How long did it take to build? How long did that take to build?
It's probably 20 hours.
Oh my God. People thought you were going to say 20 weeks.
Right. Where it's the whole thing of someone was blown away when we sent them the app, a client, because it's like, I don't have to log into the app store to get this. No. It's like, this is genius. How can I get someone to build one for my company? And their company was a roofing company, and they do need it.
Yeah. I mean, this is where
$50,000 for app development. Said, no, I'll connect you with a Glide expert, and you can have this probably within a week.
Absolutely.
And probably, just a few $1,000s later, it's going to be perfect without you really having to give a lot of time to it once you provide the framework.
Yeah.
So yes, it's connecting those dots. And sure, they're specialists, the Webflow experts, the Glide experts, etc. That the folks that provide the teaching platforms like yourself, that we all need to listen to and learn from and have our employees mentored by.
Yeah.
So well done with what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I think that basically people are being forced into it now. I mean, it's COVID. Everyone's trying to figure out ways to reduce cost. A big cost is development cost. And on top of that, everyone's trying to be more effective. So everyone's going to have to learn a certain level of these digital skills. My only kind of the thing that I say is, like, right now, it's a huge competitive advantage if you're a business person and you learn just basic things with no code. Just how to build a really beautiful website with a database connected to it. You'll have to learn 2 tools, potentially even 1, depending on what you build it with. And that can run your entire business. It can, automate a lot of things. It can also, you could also give this to these kind of programs, teach employees so that they can basically drive more results for you. So I think it's like we're being pushed in this direction. It's being accelerated by everything that's happening. Right now in the US, there's a huge unemployment problem that's happening. And a lot of those people are naturally going to move towards self-employment because they realize that the stability of the work environment has always been an illusion. It's just being shown now.
Right.
And I think that maybe 30, 50 years ago, that was less the case, that the jobs were more secure. You could have job safety. You could have a really good trajectory. It wasn't just wait every 2 years to get a small sort of like salary bump and a promotion. And I think that's like,
that's great for our business, as people are saying, I can work remotely. I think I'll work from a mountain chalet instead of working from their apartment.
Exactly.
And then they need to get insured with us. So it's going to be, we've seen a drastic increase in our business because of this boost due to the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really what it is. People are starting to take action to be self-sustaining themselves, because they realize that there's a lot of unsure things happening in the world in general. And I think that that's driving them towards believing that they might want to invest in themselves a little bit more. Yeah, but I mean, that's just my 2 cents. I'll definitely be calling you when I'm moving to Costa Rica someday to work from anywhere. Right now I'm in Los Angeles, but so you go between Alabama and Rio, right?
Right. I guess I was in Paris and Netherlands and Switzerland more recently than Alabama even, but yeah, it's an exciting time as we grow around the world, really.
Yeah.
Our underwriting takes place out of London, so it's being mobile is critical in our industry.
That's so cool. Yeah, and it's very exciting. So you guys right now, like, you are growing, and you are, I think, you guys are also seeking a round of capital. You're in the middle of discussions to close a round, right?
We are. So that's an exciting stage for our company as well.
Very cool. And so if anyone out there is watching and is an investor, I would definitely contact Andrew to just have a quick chat, let him tell you what he's doing. From what I've heard and seen, you are really working this thing the right way, which is to say, like, building a large company, but then building all these smaller tools that you use internally to just be more effective and that really just fulfill your needs specifically very well. I think that that's just like so smart, and few people really consider that.
Yeah, a lean model is something I think everyone covets these days, but a lot of times it's too late to do that in many companies.
So with all the experience you have, like, what would be some feedback, what advice could you give to a founder who's like, right now considering working on his idea or launching his company?
Oh my, it depends on the company, the sector.
I guess the best question is, like, if you could tell yourself a couple of lessons that you've learned through entrepreneurship over the past 20 years, what would some of those be?
Well, so many of the costs that are incurred, I believe, are through commitments that are made too swiftly that end up costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those contracts that are signed for vendors and suppliers that really are moved in too swiftly, and then you can't move.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things in the creative agency space. How many times have we heard that, someone won't create a website for the company unless or start the social media campaigns for them if they won't give them $1 million budget. Yeah. That's common these days. Then depends on the sector, add a 0 to it. And that is, sure, if you've been told that, look around, look in the no-code industry, and you're going to find some phenomenal design agencies that do so well and are empowering growth rather than greed.
Yeah. And I think that's a great lesson right there. I think it's like we're moving in this completely new era. People have to adapt. And yeah, I mean, for me, this all really came up because I was so sick of seeing hundreds and hundreds of startups send me their deck, and they were basically had spent so much money and had nothing to show for it. And I know what that leads to. When people fail companies, when people have companies, when things go south, it can be very difficult for the founders on a lot of levels, right? Even on emotional levels, and that creates repercussions. And I think a lot of what entrepreneurship is sold at is like basically go raise VC funding, build $1 billion company, or don't even start it. And I think there's this healthy space where it's like people are building these $20 million companies, and that's something that like people, like founders, when they start off, they don't really know how many paths there are. That funding is definitely one path, but at the moment, definitely bootstrapping is the best at the beginning because people aren't investing in your idea anymore. So, it can be frustrating. So I love what you guys are doing. I think it's just like you're leading by example, and that's a very strong thing, I think, in this era. It's not just preaching. It's also like actually doing it yourself.
Yeah, it's that wild thing that it has nothing to do with our company. But internally, we were saying the other day, we should start a page on our site of all the resources for creating that are no code.
Yeah.
From even the pitch deck.
Absolutely.
It is a simple no code tool that our company has used for our pitch deck. And I mean, you just go down the line. It's why pay so much for some of the services that are out there when you can do an excellent job and the team is equipped, feels great that they've mastered a new tool. It's exciting.
Yeah. It's the whole thing. I mean, what you just mentioned is probably the thing that for me lit up at a certain point. Like it was probably about 3-4 years ago, and I was really starting to build stuff with Webflow, and the speed at which I was able to build stuff. And for me, it just made me so excited. It wasn't even about what I was building. It was just like, I can actually do this. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because probably 12 years ago, before I started sort of startups and all that, like I was pretty technically incompetent, to put it mildly. And so it's really surprising. Like it unlocks something that's quite powerful. Yeah,
3 years ago, I had made the website for a chain of 5 restaurants using a competitor of Webflow.
Mm-hmm.
And just for fun, family-owned restaurant in my family, and a few other sites through this Webflow competitor. Now I look at Webflow and think, wow, if I had the time and the energy, I would totally remake those sites and they'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? If you can do it yourself, you give in to that endless perfectionism, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that's like okay if you're doing it yourself. If you're paying a developer and every time you have a change you have to pay him an extra check, it's definitely more frustrating.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, this was such a great chat. I do hope you put together that long list of resources. I'd be happy to share it on your behalf. Andrew, where can people find you?
On Twitter, it's Andrew Jernigan. LinkedIn as well. Just put that together and you've got my LinkedIn and Twitter. InsuredNomads.com, and on all social media channels is Insured Nomads. Thank you very much, Christian. I appreciate you having me on today, and I encourage all of you, make great things. Be a maker.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's super exciting. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for joining, and honestly, like, I wish you all the best for what you're building. I think it's phenomenal. I think you've had such a great path, and congrats to really closing off this deal as quickly as possible. I know that fundraising can be very tedious sometimes, but it's part of the war. So I will wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Take care.